بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اليوم يئس الذين كفروا من دينكم فلا تخشوهم واخشون اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وآله أجمعين وأصحابه المنتجبين. أما بعد، قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: قل لا أقول لكم عندي خزائن الله ولا أعلم الغيب. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Respectable audience, distinguished listeners, honorable viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear listeners, you might be well aware that in the previous lecture we talked about Imam's knowledge as one of those indispensable and obligatory conditions that every Imam who succeeds to the Prophet, he has to meet it. We said that Imam should enjoy knowledge that should be precise, infallible, and be active. In the previous lecture, we talked about the nature of Imam's knowledge, about the realm that it covers, and those arguments which proved Imam's knowledge. Today, God willing, we are going to treat another important related topic, and that is Imam's knowledge of the hidden. Imam's knowledge of the unseen world. Imam's knowledge that we call it ghaib. The world of the unseen is a counterpart to the world of the manifest. So the world of the unseen lies beyond our scope of understanding. It lies behind, or it lies beyond our sensory perception. About the existence of the unseen world, there are many debates. The positivists, they have either ignored or they have refuted the existence of the world of the unseen, for they have restricted the realm of knowledge and science to these sensory understandings and knowledge. We can talk about the world of the unseen or the knowledge of the world of the unseen from two confessional and non-confessional perspectives. In another word, dear listeners, we can talk and we can treat this topic from two confessional and non-confessional perspectives. Sometimes we might argue the existence of the world of the unseen with those who negate the existence of the world of the unseen, such as positivists. But sometimes we might argue with some other Muslim sects who deny the existence of Imam's hidden knowledge, or who cannot accept Imam's knowledge of the world of the unseen. So right now we are going to treat the second category. We are not going to address the first because Philosophically talking, it is proved that there exists the world of the unseen, and experimental knowledge does not have this authority to issue verdicts about the world of the unseen. For it is not within the realm of the experimental knowledge that it has to issue verdicts. Its verdicts cannot be assumed as authoritative, for it is not under the scope and realm of its supervision, or under the scope of its observation. It is not something, the world of the unseen cannot be observed, cannot be experimentally treated by those empiricists. So their saying, or their say in respect with the world of the unseen is not authoritative. Thus, their verdicts seem invalid. So dear listeners, right now we are going to enter our own topic, and that is that does Imam have knowledge of the unseen or not? Is his knowledge restricted to the world of the manifest as ours or not? His knowledge goes beyond this scope and this realm. Where is the case, or what is the truth here in this respect? The Shiite theologians and the Shiite scholars are of the view that how the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had hidden knowledge or had knowledge of the unseen world, Imam also has knowledge about the world of the unseen. So it means since their knowledge is of God-given nature, their knowledge can cross the scope and the realm of sensory knowledge. Yes, we the human beings cannot afford having knowledge about the events which have, for example, preceded some 100 years ago. And we cannot have knowledge about the events which would occur after 100 years. It is we, in our limited scope of thought, that we cannot have true understanding. Or, for example, we cannot have true knowledge about Almighty Allah's essence, about Almighty Allah's attributes. Our knowledge of Almighty Allah's attributes are very much general. That is not very much, we can say, precise. Or our understanding of the resurrection condition, our knowledge of the resurrection day, all are limited. We cannot say that we have knowledge about all these issues. Why? Because our sensory knowledge cannot grasp it fully. It lies beyond the scope of our sensory knowledge. So now let's talk about Imam's knowledge of the world of the unseen. Do they have knowledge of the world of the unseen, or they are deprived of having knowledge about the world of the unseen? Today the question is this. As I said, the Shiites are of the view that their infallible Imams have knowledge of the world of the unseen. But some other, our Sunnite brothers, and particularly those who favor Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab's school of thought, they disagree with the Shiites. They disagree the Shiites. They do not accept. Even they said, whosoever believes that Imams enjoy infallible knowledge about the world of the unseen, they should be excommunicated. They have this view about the world of the unseen and about the knowledge of the world of the unseen.
إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون.
So, respectable audience and distinguished listeners, firstly, let me say that the world of the unseen means, or that is the counterpart of the manifest world, the world which lies beyond the sensory scope and the sensory knowledge. We, the ordinary human, do not have knowledge about the world of the unseen, but the Imams, the prophets, and the Imams can have knowledge about the world of the unseen. There is no problem in this respect. But prior touching this, the arguments which favor this notion and approach, let me say that there are two types of the world of the unseen. Sometimes the world of the unseen is absolutely unseen, like the nature or the essence of Almighty Allah. It is something that is hidden forever and for everyone. No one else can claim having precise knowledge about the essence of Almighty Allah. And due to this, we have been told by our traditional literature and parlance that we should never think about Almighty Allah's essence. For you cannot grasp fully the unlimited being. You are limited. You are imprisoned within the four walls of sensory knowledge. So Almighty Allah's existence lies beyond this sensory scope. Beyond sensory, we can say, visible things. Your mind, you cannot attain knowledge about the absolute hidden and unseen world, which is Almighty Allah's existence, which is Almighty Allah's real and precise nature. Contrary to absolute unseen, there is relative unseen. Something are unseen for some, but are manifest for some others. So this sort of knowledge can be attained by the prophets and by the Imams. As one of those predictions that was made by our Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in his household, that was the murder of one of his companions, Ammar Yasir. As he said that you will be killed and you will be murdered by a rebellious group. And after passage of many years, this prediction came true. Why? Because Imams in the Prophet's knowledge, it is possible for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, it is possible that the Prophet, like the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, should gain knowledge from Almighty Allah. He is the source. Nothing is hidden of Almighty Allah's knowledge. He is fully aware of everything. Nothing is hidden for him. Everything is manifest for him. Since he has given this knowledge to our Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he has predicted and it came true. Their knowledge is not prone to error and to blunders. So now coming to Imam's knowledge of the hidden world, Imam's knowledge of the unseen. Is it possible or not? When our Sunnite brothers claim or say that Imams cannot have, we will tell that the Holy Quran's treatment of Almighty Allah's knowledge, particularly Almighty Allah's knowledge of the unseen, that is of three kinds. The first kind, in our Sunnite brothers have resorted to the first category. You know that what the Sunnite brothers say about the impossibility of having knowledge of the unseen, they say that having knowledge of the unseen world, that is particular to Almighty Allah. That is not something that others should be able to achieve, or Imams or other people should gain or should be able to attain it. We also are of the view that it is not something attainable, but it can be given by Almighty Allah. Since we believe that our Imams are enjoying God-given knowledge, so we believe that their knowledge is different, is of not a usual nature. That is something we can say that is extraordinary. They are taught not by the typical procedures and manner. No, they are taught by Almighty Allah. When someone else is taught by Almighty Allah, as the mother of Moses, as Mary, as some other figures like Khidr alayhi salam or others, so we believe that their knowledge were also of Almighty Allah. And they had knowledge about the things which later on came true. So, respectable audience and distinguished listeners, now let's see what is the truth of the matter from the Quranic perspective. Now let's shed light on the subject from a Quranic perspective. We believe that there are 3 types of verses of the Holy Quran that treat the world of the unseen and knowledge about the world of the unseen. And they are as follows. The first category of the verses of the Holy Quran is that prove Almighty Allah's knowledge of the unseen. Almighty Allah has been given this attribute that He knows everything, including the unseen. As the verse of the Holy Quran says, Alimul Ghaybi wa Shahada. Almighty Allah has the knowledge of the world of the unseen and the world of the manifest. Almighty Allah has the knowledge of the manifest in the world of the unseen. This is the first verse of the Holy Quran in this category. That Almighty Allah has the knowledge of the manifest in the world of the unseen. Our holy Imam, Imam Ali alayhi salam, says a very beautiful phrase in this respect. Kullu sirrin indaka al-alaniya. وَكُلُّ غَيْبٍ عِنْدَكَ الشَّهَادَةِ. Every secrecy or every secret is manifest for you. And every hidden is something open for you. Nothing is out of your sight. Nothing remains out of your knowledge. You know everything. And in this respect, there is an important attribute of Almighty Allah. We call it Allamul Ghuyub. Almighty Allah knows all the secrets. Almighty Allah has knowledge about each and everything. Nothing lies outside Almighty Allah's knowledge. In the heavens, in the earth, there is no secrecy for Almighty Allah. We, the human beings, due to being imprisoned within the 4 walls of sensory knowledge and perception, we cannot understand, we cannot perceive, we cannot conceive mysteries. Many things are as mystery for us, but for Almighty Allah, nothing is mystery. وَمَا مِنْ غَائِبَةٍ فِي السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ. Nothing is there in the heavens and the earth except that it is written and it is present in the clear book. And another verse, فَإِنَّهُ يَعْلَمُ السِّرَّ وَأَخْفَى. Whatever that is secret for you, whatever that is hidden, Almighty Allah has knowledge of. Moreover, Almighty Allah knows our intention. Almighty Allah knows and has knowledge of our intentions. What is more secret? What is more hidden than our intentions? But Almighty Allah says, I know all these intentions that you have in your heart.
لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون والله
So this first category of the verses of the Holy Quran proves knowledge of the world of the unseen for Almighty Allah. The second category of these verses also monopolize and says that it is Almighty Allah alone that who has the world, who has the knowledge of the unseen. The second category of the verses gives this monopoly to Almighty Allah, who has the knowledge of the unseen. In another word, the second category of the verses say that no one else have knowledge about the world of the unseen except Almighty Allah. So till here, it is our Sunnah brothers' claim. Their claims comes true. But wait till the third type of the verses. The third category of the verses are also there are some verses which we would deal inshallah. The second type of the verses which treat the subject of the hidden world or the unseen world say that it is Almighty Allah alone who has knowledge about the unseen. He says that قُلْ لَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ الْغَيْبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Then says in another surah, وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُوَ وَيَعْلَمُ مَا فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَمَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا وَلَا حَبَّةٍ فِي ظُلُمَاتِ الْأَرْضِ وَلَا رَطْبٍ وَلَا يَابِسٍ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ. Another verse in this respect that says that the knowledge of the world of the unseen is the monopoly right of Almighty Allah. It says, وَلَا أَقُولُ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي خَزَائِنُ اللَّهِ وَلَا أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبَ وَلَا أَقُولُ إِنِّي مَلَكٌ وَلَا أَقُولُ لِلَّذِينَ تَزْدَرِي أَعْيُنُكُمْ لَن يُؤْتِيَهُمُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا. So the second category of the verses of the Holy Quran emphasizes that it is Almighty Allah alone who has the knowledge, who has the virtue of knowledge of the world of the unseen. It is Almighty Allah who has alone the knowledge of the world of the unseen. No other one shares this merit. The third category of the verses of the Holy Quran say that not only Almighty Allah knows knowledge of the world of the unseen, but also those who Almighty Allah pleases. They have also this capacity, they have also this eligibility, they have also this ability to receive God-given knowledge about the world of the unseen. Such as the verses are as following. Almighty Allah says, عَالِمُ الْغَيْبِ فَلَا يُظْهِرُ عَلَى غَيْبِهِ أَحَدًا إِلَّا مَنِ ارْتَضَى مِنْ رَسُولٍ فَإِنَّهُ يَسْلُكُ مِنْ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِ رَصَدًا. So respectable audience and distinguished listeners, the first part of the verse of the Holy Quran says, عَالِمُ الْغَيْبِ, Almighty Allah knows, Almighty Allah has the knowledge of the world of the unseen. فَلَا يُظْهِرْ عَلَى غَيْبِهِ أَحَدًا إِلَّا مَنِ ارْتَضَى مِنْ رَسُولٍ. No one knows the knowledge of the world of the unseen. No one has this knowledge of the world of the unseen except Almighty Allah is pleased with. Almighty Allah pleases. If Almighty Allah wills, if Almighty Allah wishes, if Almighty Allah intends that a person, a specific person, or a certain group of people should enjoy the knowledge of the world of the unseen, then what is the cause that we should think it is impossible? Why it should be impossible if Almighty Allah wills and if Almighty Allah gives, if Almighty Allah explicitly says this issue in His Holy Quran? No one knows No one knows about the world of the unseen except whom He is pleased with. If Almighty Allah pleases, if Almighty Allah wills, so there is nothing that it should be impossible. So the third type of the verses of the Holy Quran proves the truthfulness of the Shiites' approach, that there are people that they can have knowledge about the world of the unseen, because Almighty Allah explicitly says and asserts that no one knows except Almighty Allah and those whom Almighty Allah pleases. So Imams, our Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the Imams are of those people whom Almighty Allah grants them the knowledge of the world of the unseen. And there is no impossibility in this respect. No one should think that it is impossible. No, why it should be impossible if Almighty Allah wills? Another verse of the Holy Quran that explicitly favored the Shiites' claim is this verse of the Holy Quran that says, وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُطْلِعَكُمْ عَلَى الْغَيْبِ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَجْتَبِي مِنْ رُسُلِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. It is not necessary, it is not obligatory on Almighty Allah that He should make you aware of the world of the unseen. But it is Almighty Allah. He says, وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَجْتَبِي مِنْ رُسُلِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. But Almighty Allah chooses from the prophets whom He wishes, whom He pleases, that they should be aware of the world of the unseen. So it makes a huge difference between the Shiites' understanding of Islam with those people who have unilaterally treated the knowledge of the world of the unseen from the first verses which we have recited. We believe that there are three types of the verse of the Holy Quran which deal with the unseen world. The first type was proving Almighty Allah's knowledge, Allamul Ghuyub or Alimul Ghaybi wa Shahada. The second says no one else have the knowledge about the world of the unseen except Almighty Allah. But the third type, the verses of the Holy Quran say that Almighty Allah knows in those whom He pleases, in those whom Almighty Allah is pleased with. And then He says, in this verse of the Holy Quran says, there are some prophets whom Almighty Allah chooses that they have to gain and they have to have the knowledge of the world of the unseen. Here is what the Shiites claim in understanding of Islamic teachings, that their Imams have the knowledge of the world of the unseen. It can be proved. But we have to be fair. We have to be indeed rational in every respect, particularly those things which are a little bit exclusive to the Shia theological, we can say, understanding and reflections. We have to treat them a bit impartially. So, respectable audience, what is the conclusion that we can draw from these three types of the verse of the Holy Quran? God willing, we will treat it in the next episode. Do not miss. We will come to you. May God bless us all, that we have to understand all these teachings and be granted the eternal felicity. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
اللهم انفعنا بالعلم وزينا بالحلم وجملنا بالعافية وكرمنا بالتقوى. إن وليي الله الذي نزل الكتاب وهو يتولى الصالحين.